It is too easy for other companies to take away the wrong lessons from Toyota, for example, by focusing on tools rather than on culture, or on metrics rather than on leadership. It's also easy to simply reject the Toyota approach on the grounds that it would never work here. It is no doubt true that Toyota culture is distinct from and even foreign to the standards and practices that have become the norm in many global companies. Unfortunately, taking the long view, patiently developing people, and particularly leaders, and treating employees as appreciating assets is not always within the power of even the most senior executives of a company, who must answer to shareholders and the board of directors. However, we have seen lots of real-world examples of companies that have learned from Toyota and succeeded. In this chapter, we give you a front-row seat for a very American company trying to emerge from a crisis which was turned around under the leadership of former Toyota Managing Officer Gary Convis. After retiring from Toyota, and as we were writing this book, he was invited to become the CEO of Dana Corporation for 1 year to help in the turnaround. He was then asked to stay on as vice chairman for a year, and then later as a sensei on retainer to advise the firm's new senior leaders. We believe that other companies can learn from Toyota leadership because Dana did so, in the worst possible scenario, emerging from bankruptcy just as the Great Recession was starting. Introducing Toyota leadership will always take years of investment, and even after 3.5 years after the process began, the team at Dana believed it had just gotten started. We will describe Dana Corporation's journey in a simplified A3, starting from the background and current condition, going through the goal and the key causes of the problems they had, and ending with the solutions developed and their execution. Dana Holding Corporation is a global supplier of components for the personal and commercial truck market. They had a long and proud heritage dating back to 1904. However, early in 2006, the company faced insolvency due to industry changes, competition, and bad acquisitions. In March 2006, Dana filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection and then was able to emerge from Chapter 11 in February 2008. To support Dana in its current challenges, Gary was invited to join the Dana board by John Devine, the acting CEO and chairman of the board. Then later, John Devine asked Gary to act as CEO for a year. There were some positives. Dana's history spanned more than a century, and they had the technology, customers, and a very positive reputation for quality and great technology. And that would allow them to ultimately be successful. The company also boasted of some exceptional leaders who embraced learning and change in a new culture, including John Devine, whose storied career included chief financial officer at both Ford and GM. On the other hand, the auto industry faced a series of unprecedented challenges in the 1990s and 2000s, such as soaring steel and fuel prices, declining truck sales, and the devastating impact of the Great Recession on all segments of Dana's core markets. In this turbulent and very uncertain environment, some Dana leaders failed to adapt their mindset and strategy and embrace the opportunity for self-development. They missed the chance to foster a culture of respect for people and continuous improvement, which are essential for long-term success. Together, Gary and John set 3 priorities for Dana. Of course, the first was survival. Second, build a new culture of accountability. And third, build a foundation for future excellence. Obviously, these were not linear steps. Action had to be taken on all 3 fronts simultaneously. Gary and John had to balance 3 goals at once: downsizing and restructuring to survive the short term, and developing leadership and operational excellence for the long term. When Gary had joined the board of directors, it quickly became apparent the company, as it existed, could not survive. There were 4 main problems he had addressed immediately when becoming CEO. 1. Chimney organization. Dana's 7 divisions operated in silos, which undermined its operational efficiency and performance. There was no knowledge sharing, no flexible capacity allocation, and no alignment of goals across the organization. Number 2, redundant functions. The company's divisions operated independently with separate resources, staff, and facilities. This resulted in high costs and low knowledge sharing across the organization. Number 3, excess capacity, particularly too many small plants. Dana's global network of 113 plants in 26 countries faced a major challenge. Low demand and high fixed costs made many plants unprofitable and underutilized. With these small plants, Dana could not easily shift production to other product lines or locations. 4th, there was no standard operating philosophy or standard key performance indicators. The company lacked a clear vision and a performance monitoring system. Plant managers did not know how well their departments were doing because they only saw the total results and not the underlying processes. And Gary, as CEO, wanted to have visibility at the plant level, department level, even down to the processes. Dana's corporate culture was the root cause of many challenges that the company had to overcome to stay afloat, survive, and ultimately to flourish. First, let's look at the approach to Priority 1, basic survival. The financial crisis forced Dana to slash costs and staff as fast as revenues dropped, without time for careful analysis of people, plants, and products, mostly led by John Devine. It certainly was not the ideal environment for thinking long-term and investing in a culture of respect for people and continuous improvement. As would any leader who had been well-trained at Toyota, Gary focused right away on getting a first-hand view of Dana by going and seeing. Gary brought in some ace TPS experts from Toyota or its affiliates, who then led radical KAIZEN to cut costs quickly and efficiently, removing waste and enhancing operational excellence, and of course, meeting quality and safety standards. Toyota trained, they of course worked through the plant managers and would lead and coach developing the plant managers rather than doing everything by themselves. The plant managers were put in a challenging situation that was entirely new to most of them. Gary started with zero-based budgeting. They had to start from scratch and justify the necessity of each cost. The second priority was to build a new culture of accountability. The ultimate source of many of the problems that Dana had to solve if it were to survive was the corporate culture. This was the second priority for Gary and John, building a new culture at Dana by ensuring that the right leaders and the right metrics were in place. The right leaders were ones who could self-develop and develop others, who could learn to lead daily KAIZEN and major change, and who could keep their teams pointed at true north. It did mean rapidly identifying those leaders at Dana who were willing and able to learn and lead to change a culture. This would require not only self-development, but rapid development of Dana team members, and quickly replacing those who are not capable, offering them positions sometimes at a lower level. Gary established and staffed an internal training consulting group to teach PS, as well as a process engineering group to help redesign technical processes as part of building a foundation for operational excellence and Toyota-style leadership. A standard set of metrics were needed for quick cost reduction while improving quality and on-time delivery. And as I mentioned, Gary wanted visibility at every level of the company. To do this, he put together a team that came up with a set of metrics that emphasized operational excellence. These key performance indicators clearly showed what mattered to the new Dana Corporation. Plant conversion costs, controllable in the four walls, quality and safety were chief among them. More important than the specific new metrics were new ways of reporting on and using the metrics. Gary and the operational excellence team set out to put a standard visual management system in place in every plant with daily reporting and weekly reviews by Gary and his team. It might seem odd, but one of the keys in developing accountability was a shift to a matrix organization. Matrix organizations are often considered cumbersome and communication is difficult, which might in fact get in the way of restructuring. A key factor in making the matrix structure work, however, was combining and greatly simplifying the siloed business units that had been in place. Priority 3 was to build a foundation for operational excellence and Toyota-style leadership for the long term. In tandem with the downsizing and cost cutting, setting new metrics, and finding new leaders, Gary was taking some immediate actions to build the foundation for operational excellence. Gary decided to focus on a subset of the Toyota production system and problem-solving tools to drive quick wins and the results data needed. He focused on standardized work balance charts, balancing to tact, and even basic cleanup and organization of the workplace, that is 5S. He used the single-page A3 size report as the main tool for communicating the current status of processes and the problem-solving efforts that were used to make improvements. Many Kaizen workshops were kicked off with instructions to continue until all goals were achieved with sustainable new processes. The senior executive team established 3 or 4 fundamental improvement targets and rolled them out worldwide. The chief one focused on a target for reducing conversion costs. Another main one was to reduce inventory. In reducing inventory, freed up cash to help pay down the debt. An underappreciated yet critical part of operational excellence is trust. Part of trust building was making sure that Kaizen did not get confused with headcount reduction. Kaizen workshops focused on waste elimination, not headcount reduction, though different efforts for downsizing were in fact reducing the number of employees. If the financial situation dictated further layoffs, that process would be handled entirely separately from the Kaizen projects. Gary had to simultaneously develop and deploy a formal plan for continuous improvement at more than 90 plants around the world, and at the same time support the transformation of operations. The Dana operating system was developed with the intent of delivering and sustaining breakthrough results. The Dana operating system was represented as a house very similar to the Toyota Production System house. As in TPS, there were twin pillars, the first just in time, which had the true north vision of building exactly what the customer wants in the amount they want when the customer wanted it. This pillar was supported by tools such as standard work, one-piece flow cells, eliminating changeovers between products, and having equipment that functioned flawlessly. The second pillar was Jidoka, or building in quality without errors. Jidoka requires stopping and immediately fixing every problem as it is found, as facilitated by tools like the end-on system, visual management, and mistake-proofing devices. A Dana operating system roadmap was designed as a 5-year plan. At a high level, it was a series of 7 steps that looked quite mechanistic. The first, discussed in detail previously, was to focus on radical improvement through developing KPIs that clearly displayed the difference between target and actual, then using structured problem solving to close the gaps. The second step was to define the Dana operating system in greater detail, deploy more formal training, and deploy local subject matter experts in all of the DOS tools globally for each plant. The 7 steps were not just high-level generalizations. Each step had a set of extremely detailed actions and plans. There were several important aspects built in to ensure the proper balance between deploying tools, getting results, and developing people. First, the focus was as much on leadership development as it was on driving change and getting results. The plant managers were rigorously coached by regional continuous improvement experts and responsible for deployment and results. Second, the roadmap that they created was a set of guidelines for the plant managers who were at the Gemba and had a better understanding of what was needed in their particular context. Different plants applied different tools in different sequences, although all needed the foundation of the first phase. Third, in the first 3 years, there was a very conscious effort to keep everything, especially the tools, very simple. Fourth, every plant was required to have a model line, an area where they had raised TPS to a particularly high level, so that there was an opportunity to experiment, learn the tools and supporting approaches before they were expanded across the plant. Fifth, the local experts had to be in place in each plant so that they could provide the rapid response and immediate coaching needed to keep the momentum going. Conclusion. What happened as a result? The results of the Dana operating system efforts speak for themselves. All KPIs improved significantly, costs were reduced, inventory was greatly reduced, and profits increased. The stock price actually skyrocketed. At the low point in March 2009, Dana stock traded for just 19 cents. Over the course of Gary's first year, the stock price skyrocketed by 68 times to a little over $13 per share, the largest improvement in stock value of any automotive supplier in the world. The overall cost reductions, productivity improvements, quality improvements, and inventory reductions were stunning. As of September 2011, it was becoming clearer that Dana was over the hump and was on the road toward a healthy long-term future. Dana was able to shift from short-term survival mode to a more aggressive growth strategy, particularly in emerging markets like China and India. There's no magic in the Toyota bag of tricks that can bring a company that is on its deathbed back to life without any pain. The key difference at Dana was the investment in hiring and developing leaders, an investment of both time and extremely scarce capital, even during the darkest days when survival was very much in question. While the short-term metrics had to be hit, Gary and the team made sure that the softer goals of leadership development were also being achieved, setting the company up for the longer term. The Dana story illustrates the power of TPS even for a company in crisis. In the final chapter, we'll reflect on lean leadership and the challenges for organizations that wish to truly make the journey toward a culture of continuous improvement. Let me end with a quote I love. Rough waters are truer tests of leadership. In calm water, every ship has a good captain. A Swedish proverb.